Hi everyone, in this video let's solve the problem Leetcode 128 longest consecutive sequence. So the problem states that given an unsorted array of integers nums, return the length of the longest consecutive element sequence. So if we take array nums as 1, 2, 100, 200, 3, 4, right? So in this case, we have two sequences that are consecutive. So sequence 1 would be 1, 2, 3, 4, and sequence 2 be 100 comma 200. Since we have to return the length of the longest one, right? So this would be the longest, whose length is equal to 4. Okay, so the first approach that we can use to solve this is essentially sorting, because that makes life much easier to find the consecutive sequences. So after sorting, right, array would look something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 100 comma 200. So now what you can do is you can just keep an index I here and then keep moving forward. And if at this place, right, so at if you move I here, so if there's an element before the ith index which is one smaller than I, then uh, we have found we have found start of a sequence and we can keep moving that way. So 3 is one smaller than 2, then 4 is one smaller than 2, and so on. So once we reach here, we can see that 100 is not one smaller than 4. So this ends one sequence 1. Then from here we find another sequence 2, keeping the length. So once we finish one sequence, then we reset length to 0, and then start another sequence. So we can keep a longest variable to check whether um, the length is greater than the previous found lengths or not. So that's one way, but the time complexity obviously here would be big of n log n. And the constraint in our problem also states that we should do it in big of n. So let's try an optimized approach. So basically, if we imagine the entire nums array on a number line, right? So we will basically have 1, 2, 3, 4 here, and then we'll have 100 somewhere here, then 200 here. Okay. So we can visually see that uh, if there's no element which is one smaller than it on the right side, then it would be start of a sequence, and then we could iterate through, maybe using a while loop, and check how long the sequence is. So here there's no 0, right? So it's a start of sequence. Here there's no 99, so 100 is start of sequence. Similarly here there's no 199, so 200 is start of sequence. So we'd have one sequence here, then second one, and then this is the third one. So this, since this is like 4 elements long, so this would be the answer. So length would be 4. Now how do we go about doing this, right? So one approach would be just to take an array, and then uh, basically apply whatever fundamental steps that I told you. And second one would be using a set. So in this case, right, I would prefer using the set, because we can perform peek slash get operations in set in O of one time. So this is a unique nature of a set. So every time, like, yeah, unlike an array, we don't have to go through the entire array to check whether we have the start of a sequence or not. So instead we can just use a set. So the pseudocode would look something like this. For So we would have like a num set of nums, okay, and for and we would have longest, 0 to keep track of the longest subsequence. For n in nums, okay, you can check if n minus 1 is in our uh, num set or not. Okay, if it's not in a num set, then you can keep a length variable because there's a start of sequence as 1, and now we can check. We can just do a while loop while n plus len in our set, while n plus length is in our set. Uh, we keep continuing. Okay, and once n plus length is not in a subset, so once we reach uh, okay, yeah, so just roll n plus plus to keep track, and while n plus length is not in a subset, so at for the fourth position n plus 4 plus 1 is not in a subset, you just come out of the while loop, and then uh, we basically set longest is equal to max of length comma longest, because here we get a particular length, right, of the sequence in this place, and then here we check keep track of the longest, and finally we just return longest. Okay, so this is the basic pseudocode, and now let's jump on to the actual code, which is very similar. So we define num set as a set of nums, and then we have longest is equal to 0, and for each element n in our num set, we check if it's the start of a sequence by checking if n minus 1, if it's not in the sequence, just kind of typo here I guess. So yeah, so here I meant is not in num set. So if n minus 1 is not in num set, then it's the start of a sequence, so we keep length as 1 including the element n, and while n plus length, right? So while the next element is in our subset, we keep increasing length plus is equal to 1 and continuing this. So then we check if while n plus 2 is it in subset or not, while n plus 3 in subset or not. So we keep going and checking all of this, and then once the while loop, the condition fails where n plus something is not in our set, we come out of the while loop, and then we basically check if it's the longest so far, and finally once we go through all the elements in the subset, we return the longest. So this was the entire solution, and yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.